All right, this is your demonstration on using an extruded piece of clay to create a handle for a pinch pot, a mug, a vase, any of those things. One of the things I noticed right away when I look at my piece, do you see that little hole there? There is a little air pocket. That happens a lot when you use the extruder. Even though I was wedging my clay beforehand, it does happen. You can try to smooth it over with your hand before you begin. I'm not necessarily going to need very much for a handle for my mug. I don't want my handle to be too big. If I make a mistake and I don't like it when I add it to my cup, I can always take it off and start over, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is just kind of smooth the whole thing out with my hands. What's also going to happen when I do that is it's also going to dry it out just a bit. This clay is a little bit wet, so I don't necessarily want it to be too terribly flexible. Oftentimes when you have people making handles, you will see that they want them to get to the leather hard stage before they actually add them to their mug or their vase or whatever the case may be. So right now it is in the plasticity stage. It is very moldable and shapeable. I can create any kind of shape with this mug handle, and it will be best for me to give it a basic shape and either use a hair dryer to expedite the drying process or give it a day and just kind of let it dry out just a little bit more. Generally speaking, on a mug, you have handles that tend to have a little bit of a heart shape. So let's anticipate that this is the side of my mug, maybe along this here, okay? What shape do you want your mug handle to be? At this stage, I have what looks like a half of a heart, which is the general shape. You want to think about, how do you want your handle to function for you? Do you want to be able to put all 4 fingers inside that handle? If that's the case, this is not big enough, okay? One of the worst things I have seen with mug handles is mug handles that are way too big and stick out too far. So one thing that I can do is just kind of hold my hands around it or near it and kind of gauge how much space do I have? Can I put 4 fingers in there? Some people like to have a perfect little rainbow or U shape. First thing I'm going to do is just kind of slice that edge so it's nice and straight. And I'm going to make several different handle shapes. I am going to leave it on this tray just so that I can let it dry out a little bit. I also want to make sure that my handle is standing up properly, if that makes sense. So what I'm doing right here is I'm anticipating that this is the edge of my cup. The edge of my cup, I want to be able to put this handle onto it. So everything that I'm doing right here is kind of gauging how it's going to look on the edge of my mug. The edge of my mug might or might not be perfectly flat. It might be curvy. I want you to take that into account. Notice that I did not make this and put it on my mug right away. My first step is to work on a tray or your work surface and play with what you have in front of you and experiment with different shapes. I'm anticipating that the mug I'm going to put this onto is curvy. And right now, I think I like the idea of having a little bit of a C shape with this particular handle. So what I want to happen is I'm going to give both ends a straight cut. I just used a needle tool. I have some extras here. I'm going to make another handle. No shame in making extra handles just in case. For right now, I already have a basic shape and I didn't have to do much at all. The extruder did all of the hard work for me. One thing that you do need to know is that when you are applying a handle to your mug, you want to make sure that that end piece right there is going to lay flat on those edges. I'm going to demonstrate what I mean by that. For right now, I have a basic shape. It is gonna look more like a C shape. I'm gonna set that up to the top. And then the other one is going to have a little bit more of a heart shape. So right now, these are just two very, very basic shapes. You can look on the internet and find a plethora of many different ideas. I want you to be able to be creative, but the main idea here is for you to be able to understand how to create the shape and how to attach it to your mug. At this stage, the plasticity stage, if I apply this handle to my mug right now, it's going to fall off. Here's why. It's not necessarily going to fall off. I shouldn't say that, but what's going to happen is it's not going to keep its shape. It's going to kind of slowly start to droop. It's not going to hold where you need it to be. So that's why a hair dryer is really useful, and also, just air dry will also do the job for you. Some people have hours to sit in the studio and work and don't have to use a hair dryer, but that is a product that we have that can kind of expedite the process. Okay, so now I'm ready for a second shape, and I'm gonna be adding these to my mugs and just see what I like better. This one I want to be more of a heart shape, and it kind of looks like a question mark, actually. Think about, the style of your cup. Is it, more traditional? Is it more of a cup that you want to stick with a theme? Does your handle mimic kind of the theme that you're going for? So here, I'm going to actually give my handle some extra details. I'm going to curve that end a little bit so that it has a nice kind of spiral at the end, and that just gives it a little extra detail that you can fancy up your cup with. So that's something to think about. Are you going to just put a simple handle onto your mug, or are you going to try to make it fancy? Are you going to add details to it? Those are all things that you need to consider. All right, now this one here, I cut the top part on an angle. I want this part to lay nice and flat on my mug. This part here at the bottom is going to get attached on this round part here. I'm not going to do anything else with that edge. If anything, I might clean it up a little bit by using my fingers or a sponge. Or another idea that you might haven't used yet is to get a little bowl of water and a paintbrush. A paintbrush with a little bit of water on it. If you paint the surface, well, number one, you're wetting it. But number two, you're also cleaning up those lines. Be real careful when you do that not to get it too wet, okay? Because that too wet is obviously going to cause problems because, number one, it's going to take longer to dry. Number two, sometimes it kind of makes the design fall apart. If it gets too wet, it starts cracking. So those are some things to consider. All right, so I have two different handles. My next job is going to be giving it some time to air dry, and then I can apply it to the actual mug. So for right now, we're done with the first video. I'm going to take some time to dry these and clean them up, and then we'll start again and add these to the mug.